So I'm here today with Lindsay Middleton, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her journey to Grand Prix Dressage with her ex-event horse, Bouncer. So Lindsay, can you tell me a little bit about when you first met Bouncer?
The very first time I saw him, we were actually at an event, Bishop Burton College, and I was sat in our horse box, which was quite close to the warm-up for the dressage, and I saw this grey horse in the distance, just cantering. Well, he wasn't actually warming up for the dressage, he was there just being exercised, and I thought, gosh, that's got a good canter, that looks pretty smart. And I recognised the rider that was riding the horse, and she was Karen Dixon's work rider, so I thought, that'll be for sale. And I wasn't really looking for a horse at the time, but I thought, I've got to phone Karen up and ask her about this horse. So I did, and obviously, it went from there.
And when did you first, or how old were you when you first took sort of ownership of him?
He was 6, so he'd come over from Ireland with Karen, so he'd hunted in Ireland as a 6-year-old, and Karen, obviously through her connections, brought him over. She'd only had him a couple of weeks, so that's when I picked him up really as an Irish hunter, and I sort of started the process of turning him into an event horse. That's what I initially was buying him for, which I then did. I evented him for until he was 9, and then really he'd sort of reached where he wanted to go, and someone had said to me the horse could have some ability to do the higher level dressage, so I thought, okay, let's have a go and see what happens and see where we end up.
Did you instantly see Grand Prix potential, or was it hidden behind the surface?
As I said, I knew I could see he had a very good canter. And obviously I was buying him as an event horse initially, and I thought he had a nice trot, a good enough trot to be an event horse. But I wasn't necessarily looking at him as a dressage horse. So that wasn't in my thought process. It was only as I sort of trained him on that my trainer said to me, this could do it. This could do it, that I thought, okay.
And what was your background prior to him?
I'd always been involved with eventing, so I left school and straight away went to work with horses, and I worked for some very good people who had a stud, and they were very good at producing young horses, and that was really my first role, riding their young horses and producing them on to sell. And along with that, I had always had one of my own horses, which I evented. So my background is producing young horses to go eventing. So he was my first go at doing proper dressage.
And how did he transition from an eventer to a dressage horse?
By the time I decided that he was going to sort of move away from the eventing and we'd head in the dressage direction, he already had a half pass and a flying change. So that was, the flying change is a big thing for dressage, to teach a horse a flying change. So he already had that. So that was a big tick in the bag. So from there, we needed to consolidate his training, his basics and his training, and progress there from single changes in through to tempi changes, and try to develop more of a trot really for the future, with his future as a dressage horse.
What were the biggest differences you noticed between training an event horse and training a horse for dressage?
I think the process is similar and different really. An event horse obviously has 3 phases. It has to train for dressage, show jumping and cross country. So I think you end up sort of dipping your toe into every discipline, and not getting really down to the nitty gritty quite as much. Where obviously the dressage, you're doing one phase. So I noticed that I had to become much fussier about the detail of everything I was doing. I couldn't sort of think that'll be fine. There was no that'll be fine about dressage. It doesn't work. It does matter that you have to make sure that you do everything correctly and as well as you can do. And that sounds like I'm being domineering and drilling him. I'm not. It's that sort of happens over a period of time, that you have to think that the detail matters, and you have to be able to get into the detail and be able to present the detail of the movement in a very good way. Where eventing, I think you can sometimes just get away with it a little bit of, stepping away and having that, well, that'll be okay for today and that'll be fine.
I think as well with eventing, dressage is probably not the main focus. It's probably more on the cross country,
Yes.
and that's sort of where you're, and obviously not knocking a pole and the show jumping. And
Yes, yeah, there definitely there is that element that once you go and do your dressage, if you're not in the lead event, if you're 5th, you can think you've still got a chance of pulling up. If you're 10th, you've still got a chance of pulling up. Dressage, if you're 5th, if you're 10th, you might have not left home.
thank you for that, because I came 5th and 9th in the first go.
I was thinking I should have said that, because you do have to take them out to educate them at shows, don't you?
No, that's fine.
But
no, I know what you're saying. Essentially, it's like you've got another chance in eventing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas with dressage, you've got one shot at this.
Yeah.
Every move, you need to nail it there and then to get the points, the maximum points.
There is the element of having to go out and educate your horse, and obviously you're going to take your horse out to its first dressage, and it probably is going to be upset and it is going to be tense, and you're not going to do your perfect test. But I think once you've got over that phase of their education and their training, it is about, well, for me, if I go out and I've got past that point, I go out to do my best, and my best, I'm quite competitive. I like to try and have a go at winning.
And that's why I got to the top. And was there a turning point when you knew he could make it to Grand Prix level?
There was quite a few probably stumbling blocks along the way with our training. Obviously, the Grand Prix work was very new to me. So it was slightly at times the blind leading the blind. And there were times when I thought, God, this is really hard, because it is really hard. And I thought, God, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough. Is my Irish horse good enough? And I don't think I really believed it until I'd actually, did my final salute in my first Grand Prix, and I actually almost cried. And I thought, oh my God, I've done it, I've made it. So I think until I'd actually completed my first Grand Prix, don't think I realised that, or believed that I could do it.
And how many years did it take you to get to that level from starting the dressage training, sort of after the event?
I think we were probably about 6 years, which, and as I said, I think it's my first time. So, I made mistakes along the way, and the progress was slow. I think someone that knew what they were doing would have perhaps made quicker progress. But that's life, isn't it?
It's your journey.
Yeah, that doesn't worry me. I'm not upset about that. I'm just delighted where we managed to get to.
Incredible. How did you adapt your own skills to match his learning style?
As I sort of said, I felt the training from an event horse and a dressage horse, I had to become much more particular in what I wanted. So that was definitely something I had to change my thought process about. And also for him, he's actually a very sensitive horse. As a young horse, he was very hot. And there was a lot of repetition when he sort of got his knickers in a knot sometimes, and he'd get a bit hot with me. There was a lot of repetition. And also he really responds well to being patted and being told he's a good boy. So I spend quite a lot of my time talking to him as I'm riding around, telling him he's a good boy and trying to pat him. I really notice that makes a massive difference to him. He feels really good and sort of takes a breath when I tell him how fabulous he is, even when he's not perhaps being as fabulous as I'd like him to be. But he really responds well to that.
Was there ever a moment you thought about giving up on the journey?
There was lots of times when I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do the Grand Prix. That was my goal. My goal was always just to be able to do a Grand Prix on him. And there was lots of times I thought, God, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to do it. But I am quite a determined person. If I want to do something and I set my mind to it, I'm quite resilient. So I'm quite good at sticking my chin out, if you like, and saying, come on, Lindsay, stop being a wimp. You can do it. So I'm quite good at doing that. The one thing I think in training that I found really hard to do was the one-time changes. We did have quite a stumbling block at the one-time changes. I had no idea what I was doing, and he obviously had no idea what he was doing, and we got in quite a muddle with those. So I was training with Ferdy Alberg at the time, and I said to Ferdy, I think we're going to have to find someone that can perhaps ride him and give him some clarity to what we want, because I'm not giving him, you know, the clarity that he needs to understand what to do. Because I always felt he could do the ones. It wasn't that he couldn't do them, but I wasn't doing the right job. So Ferdy said, leave it with me. I'll have a chat with Michael, obviously Ferdy's son. He will sometimes take a horse for training. So thank goodness, Michael said he'd have him. So Michael took him for a few weeks. And I mean, he's obviously an amazing rider. And, you know, I wouldn't be here today without Michael. I wouldn't have done what I'd done without Michael. And he helped us with the changes. I think he took him for 3 weeks initially. Got some clarity with the horse. I then took him back for a month, was banned from doing any changes on him. And then he went back to Mike's for another couple of weeks. Mike did a few more weeks with him, and then I was allowed to have a little go. In the process of that, I had actually found a schoolmaster where I could go and have a bit of a go and do some ones with a horse that knew what it was doing. So by the time we put the two of us back together, I'd had a bit more of an idea and he had more of an idea. And, you know, today now, the ones are probably one of his highlights. He finds really easy and he can skip his way through them. So it's really lovely.
And what was the most dangerous or heart-stopping moment you've experienced with him?
When I first got him, so he was, like I said, he came off the hunting field. And then a couple of months later, there was just a local, I think the riding club were running a one-day event. As I said, I'd brought him to events, so I took him there to do his first one-day event. I didn't know him very well at all. And I'd got on him at the lorry, walking down to the dressage, and he had to walk down quite a steep hill onto the warm-up for the dressage. And I got halfway down the hill, and he just stood on his hind legs and started bouncing around up and down on his hind legs and doing twizzies. And he'd never done anything like that at home. And I was thinking, what on earth is going on here? Anyway, as soon as he actually got all 4 feet on the floor, I jumped off quite quickly because I was completely... Anyway, so I lunged him for quite a long time then before I got back on him. But from that, I realised he was actually a little bit cold-backed and a bit girthy. So there's been a few little moments like that where I've had to be a little bit careful and hold tight. But I can vividly remember, coming down a hill and him jumping around on his hind legs. But even now I have to be a little bit thoughtful. If I've not sat on him for a few days, I will always give him a quick lunge before I get on him.
So just building that partnership and knowing what he needs.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Have you ever cried after a training session or a competition, and why?
I've sort of got quite well. 2 times I've got emotional. Once was, as I said, when I'd finished my first Grand Prix. I don't think anyone ever realised that was watching, but I actually walked out with tears in my eyes because I couldn't quite believe I'd done it. And then the other time was I'd done a test which hadn't gone too well, and I was feeling quite low and deflated. And I was training with Michael at that point, and he obviously knew my test hadn't gone well, and he was actually very nice to me and very sensitive to me on the lesson. And he probably doesn't realise this, but I was crying because he was just so nice.
And what's the single most unexpected thing this horse ever taught you?
I think, as I said, I didn't get him and I didn't see him and think, gosh, that's going to be a Grand Prix horse. That wasn't what I was planning on. So I think he's taught me that you never know where life can take you. So basically expect the unexpected, really. And I followed what path he took me on. And I'm so glad I did.
That's incredible. And where had you got to prior to having him in terms of dressage? Was you dabbling in dressage, or was it pure eventing? Or?
I had dabbled. I think I've always appreciated how much the flat work relates through to jumping, whether it's dressage or cross country. I've always strongly believed that the foundations for the other 2 phases are based in dressage, in good, correct flat work. So I'd always believed that. So I'd always tried to do my best to have good basics and to feed that through into the jumping phases. So I had another horse in the past that I'd started eventing, and for various reasons, he didn't carry on, and I did do some dressage with him, but I think I got him to medium. And there's another couple of horses I'd probably taught a change to, but that was as far as I'd gone. I think the highest level I competed to was medium.
And if somebody had told you in the early days that you would have made it to Grand Prix level together, what would you have said?
I'd have just laughed and just said no way. Had no interest at that moment, and no way. I would have just laughed.
Especially when you're jumping around on the steep hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what saddle are you currently riding?
So at the moment, Bouncer goes in Dressage Rose with Perfecto panels.
From a keep?
Yes.
And why did you choose it?
I've always actually ridden in Amerigo previously because I quite like the flock panels. I liked the idea of the flock panels. And then earlier this year, I heard that there was an option of having a keep saddle with a flock panel. And I'd always liked the feeling an keep gave me as a rider. So I thought, well, this could be a perfect opportunity to combine the two and try it. And I did, and I really, really liked it. So I've moved to the Dressage Rose with the Perfecto panel.
Perfect. And what specifically is it about that saddle that works for you?
I liked the feeling it gave me. It gave me a nice secure feeling for my leg. And what we did, we put a bigger panel, knee block on the saddle. I'm not a very tall person. I'm not a very big person. So I felt that really helped me, give me a bit more security, the bigger knee block for me. And I felt my horse went really well in it. I felt he was much freer through his back with the Perfecto panel.
And how important do you think choosing the right saddle is for developing a horse to high level?
I think through every discipline, whether it's eventing, show jumping and dressage, I think it's absolutely critical that you give the horse the opportunity to do its absolute best for you, because you are wanting everything from them. So I think you have to give them the opportunity. I think it's absolutely critical.
Yeah, because the saddle's never going to improve a horse. It's always going to hinder it slightly. So you just need to make sure it's
absolutely
best fit as possible. Yeah. And Bouncer's got a really high width and he's very narrow. So how did you get the correct fit with your keep saddle?
So he actually measures a -4, which is exceptionally narrow. So we ordered him a narrow saddle. I think we actually ordered him a -2. And then we didn't want to have anything that was measured a -4. We thought that might be too restrictive for him. So we've worked with the Mates correction pad and we've put shims in to sort of pad it out. And that's worked really, really well for him.
It allows him to freedom through his shoulder. And, yeah, perfect.
So, and I think it works well if he changes shape, if he loses a bit of weight, if he puts a little bit of weight on, we can play around with it. That's worked really well, that system.
So have you ever had a saddle that's been so restricted that it's really impacted your performance?
Yes, definitely. I did try one saddle and I think I rode him in it probably for about 15 minutes and he just wouldn't go an inch. He hated it. I couldn't get him to go correctly. I couldn't get him to stretch his neck forward and put his back up. He just hated it. He dropped his back away from me and it was awful. Yes, I think I probably rode in it for about 15 minutes and got off and never put it on him again.
And what's your advice for riders trying to find the perfect saddle for their horse?
I think your horse will tell you when you've got the perfect saddle. As I've said before, a moment ago, I did put a saddle on my horse that he really wasn't happy in. I think you have to listen to your horse and the right saddle will improve your horse's way of going and make him happier. So listen to your horse.
What was the feeling when you first entered the arena at Grand Prix level?
I think I couldn't quite believe it, really. I hadn't gone to a big show. I'd sort of snuck off to a local show and I couldn't quite believe it. I felt very proud that I'd done it. It was sort of been my aim with Bouncer when I decided to go from eventing to dressage. I'd sort of set myself this goal that I wanted to do a Grand Prix. And I couldn't quite believe I was fulfilling a goal. I was very proud.
And looking back, what does the journey mean to you?
I'm very proud of my horse. There's no foreign breeding in him whatsoever. His mum was a racehorse and his dad was an Irish draft. There's lots of Irish horses out there that have warm blood in them these days, but he is a proper traditionally bred, half-bred Irish horse. And I think for him to have done what he's done, he's hunted, he's evented, and then he's gone to Grand Prix dressage, I think's really amazing. I'm super proud of him. And I'm proud of myself for taking this traditional Irish horse through to Grand Prix. Something I can look back with fondness, and no one can take it away from me. I've done it. I've done it myself, so yeah, very proud.
And what does the future look like for you and Bouncer?
Well, he's not a young chap anymore. While he's still happy, then we'll keep going. He's got a show, hopefully, in October, a music show. So I'm currently devising a floor plan for that. I think I've got a few moves lined up that we can hopefully do, and then we'll put some music to it. So short term, that's our next goal, and then really let's see what next year brings and see how he feels. I keep listening to him. As I said, he's not a young horse, so I keep listening to him. I keep going to the vet and saying, is he okay? Am I okay to keep going? Am I okay to keep doing this with him? The vet keeps saying yes. So while the vet keeps saying yes and the physio keeps saying yes, I'll keep going.
Amazing. And what advice would you give to riders considering a similar transformation with a horse?
Keep believing. If you want it, keep believing. It's not been an easy process. As I said, there's plenty of times where I've wanted to give up and haven't thought I could do it. But keep believing, and if you want it, keep your focus, and you'll get there.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing your story with Bouncer. It's been absolutely amazing to hear about your journey, and we wish you all the best for 2025 and beyond.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
The same page tonight.